As you've just seen, Up to Us is a national competition that enables students to educate your peers about the nation's long-term debt, how it will affect your future, and how your generation can have a voice. This was the third year of our competition, and we were thrilled to work with 49 different campuses, and are thrilled to recognize today those teams and the winner, Stockton University. The competition is a partnership between my organization, Net Impact, the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, and CGIU. This year, the competition reached over 16,000 students in direct in-person communication, as well as over 3 million via social media. Thank you to Michael Peterson and the Peterson Foundation for your visionary leadership on this important topic. Thank you for CGIU for being an awesome partner. Thank you to our esteemed judges, Congressman Joaquin Castro, Chelsea Clinton, the Honorable Mick Cornett, Mayor of Oklahoma City, Ben Rattray, founder and CEO of Change.org, and George Stephanopoulos. And thank you especially to all the students and faculty who spent thousands of hours making this competition a success. Net Impact's role in this competition is to recruit and support the students to show leadership on campus around this issue. We do the same thing for a number of social and environmental initiatives, and if you don't know us, I encourage you to look us up at netimpact.org. I've been privileged to lead Net Impact for over 10 years, and over that time, I've seen thousands of student leaders, some who have had tremendous success catalyzing transformative change, and some whose efforts have really fallen by the wayside. What makes the difference? What makes some students rise to catalytic change and others be more average leaders? Catalytic leaders are creative, often in ways that surprise you. For example, our team from Texas State made an awesome rap song about the debt, which you will be glad to know I will not try to perform for you right now. Another team from Bellarmine University had a debt carnival with the theme, "The national debt will not magically disappear." And Duquesne had a Taco About the Debt event with students dressed in tacos, where they would offer you a free taco if you talk to them about the debt. In addition to being creative, catalytic leaders are resilient in the face of challenge. I can't think of a bigger challenge on college campuses than getting students to pay attention during a party. And the Loyola University students were encountering the biggest party of all, Mardi Gras. They realized that the last week of the competition fell during Mardi Gras, but instead of giving up, they joined the party by having a second-line parade that focused on the debt. On another note, the University of Texas Pan American showed resilience when their team leader at the very beginning of the competition got sick. But instead of bowing out of the competition, the rest of the leadership took over the work, and they were still able to place in the top 20. Finally, catalytic leaders are not in it for themselves. It's not about ego with them, which they show by collaborating. On the Up to Us competition, the Farmingdale State College team reached out to their entire student body to get ideas about how to solve the national debt, and they had ideas from over 130 students. Stockton University, our winner, partnered with over 40 different clubs and groups on campus and had an extended leadership team of almost 400 students. There were many, many more examples of creativity, resilience, and collaboration from our amazing teams that participated this year. Now I'm pleased to recognize 7 catalytic leaders and bring them out on stage. 5 students from Stockton University, President Bill Clinton and Michael Peterson.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angelo, and I am from Stockton University in southern New Jersey. It is an honor to be here to speak in front of you and to be on stage with President Clinton, Mr. Peterson, and Ms. Maw. Raise your hand if you are a millennial. Okay, I'm pretty sure most of you. Okay, good. Raise your hand if you have personally taken action to start the conversation about our national debt. There were a lot less hands the second time. So to those of you who didn't raise your hands, I ask you, what are you waiting for? But before I begin, I would like to use this opportunity to clear up a very important stereotype. Yes, we are from the Jersey Shore, and no, we do not gel our hair and fist pump and go tanning every day. Thank you. Just look for yourselves. In the fall semester, Victoria Maroka, Louis Chivere, Brad Ross, Mariam Sarhan, and I set out on a journey to raise as much awareness as possible on Stockton University. We spoke to every student that came in our way, many of which we've never met before, so we made new friends. It was a bit weird at first, but then we became famous on campus, known as those weird kids who came up to us in the dining hall and talked about the US economy. Unfortunately, the famous Monopoly game that you all know is based off of Atlantic City, New Jersey, if you didn't know that. So on February 5th, we had about 170 students in our campus center playing a game of life-size Monopoly. We recreated a Monopoly board and had people come play that game to learn about the national debt in a fun and engaging way. But unfortunately for Atlantic City, New Jersey, it has seen the worst of its days now with the recent casino closings and with the highest unemployment rate in the United States. As Up to Us proved, when an issue is presented to the youth, it is taken above and beyond. So now, hopefully, Atlantic City will have a brighter future with the introduction of Stockton University's newest island campus to the city. At the Net Impact Conference in November, I had the honor to meet Up to Us team leaders from all over the country. I want to thank you all, my team leaders, for showing me the best qualities a student leader must have and the passion one must possess to succeed in anything. Together, on all campuses, all of our teams together were able to reach 11,000 My 2 Cents Day pledge takers. So a round of applause to all of those teams, please. Thank you. I would first, and so here come my thank yous. I feel like I'm at the Oscars about to accept an award. So please don't start playing the orchestra music. I would first like to thank God, who guided me, my team, and I through this journey. Thank you to our sponsors, Net Impact, the Peterson Foundation, and CGIU. My team and I are especially grateful for the unconditional love showered upon us from the Stockton community and the South Jersey region as a whole. Now, last but not least, I am thankful for my team, who taught me the true meaning of friendship, and that a team leader is nothing without his team. It is now my honor to welcome to the podium the president of the Peterson Foundation, Mr. Michael Peterson. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Angelo, for that introduction. And congratulations to the entire team at Stockton, including Brad, Louis, Miriam, and Victoria. Up to Us has been an amazing program, and it's only getting better and bigger every year. In just 3 years, the program has grown from 10 teams to 22 teams to now 49 teams across more than 25 states. And when you look at the energy, commitment, and talent of these young leaders, it's easy to see why this competition has grown. Chelsea and the rest of our judges had their work cut out for them, and they chose an outstanding team. Stockton team members campaigned not only in the dorms, across campus, and on social media, but they took their message straight to Washington, meeting with their elected leaders on Capitol Hill. They also had an outside-the-box idea. Get this. They removed all the furniture from their campus center and left just a banner reading, "We sold the furniture to pay off the national debt." Now, I have no doubt that that got people's attention. but I'm not sure how well it went over with the administration. So I'm going to ask Angelo the question that I'm sure is on everyone's minds. Did you sell it on eBay or Craigslist?
No comment.
No comment, no comment. Did you put it back at least?
No, we did put it back.
We did put it back. Did you get in trouble?
No.
No. Okay, good. Good.
As far as I know.
Not yet, right? Okay. Well, I guess this year the judges were giving points for risk-taking. So normally we're not trying to inspire students to put their enrollment status at risk, but thank you for doing what you can in the name of the national debt, and congratulations to you and all the participating teams. The Peterson Foundation is very proud to sponsor this program. We're a nonpartisan organization whose mission is to raise awareness and accelerate action on America's long-term fiscal challenges. While every American is affected by the national debt, the generation in this room has more at stake than anyone else. Let me just make two simple points about our fiscal situation. First, no matter what you hear, this isn't a partisan political issue. The challenge is based on simple arithmetic. There are three major drivers. First, the baby boomers. Nearly 80 million are beginning to retire. So 10,000 will celebrate their 65th birthday today, another 10,000 will tomorrow, and another 10,000 will every day for the next 15 years. So we have a huge influx into these retirement programs. Second, longevity. We're all living much longer than we used to, which is great, but it means we will spend more years in retirement. And lastly, healthcare costs. The sad truth is that America has one of the most inefficient healthcare systems in the world. So as millions of Americans reach retirement age, they access a high-cost healthcare system that puts even greater strain on the budget. So the perfect storm of these predictable drivers, combined with an insufficient tax system, sets us on an unsustainable path. So the first point is that this is a reality based on numbers, not some partisan political fiction. The second point is that this issue affects you personally. An easy way to understand the debt is simply look at the interest tab. On our current path, over the next 10 years, we will spend nearly $6 trillion on interest alone. And interest will become the third largest spending category in the federal budget. And in just 5 years, we'll be spending more on interest than we do on education, infrastructure, and R&D combined. So that means we'll be spending more on our past than on our future. And if you don't think that impacts your future, think again. Whether and how we deal with our nation's debt will affect your economic opportunity, your earnings power, your ability to pay off student loans, buy a home, or start a business. There's a direct connection between the nation's fiscal health and the economy you all will inherit in just a few short years. So every time you hear about debt and deficits, you should not pass it off as irrelevant. When we don't pay our bills, what we're really saying is that we'd rather have you all pay it later. So it's up to us, and it's up to you. And given the power demonstrated by all of these Up to Us teams, I have no doubt that America's leaders will hear you loud and clear. If you all start getting engaged like these teams did, we can ensure that our country remains dynamic, innovative, competitive, and compassionate, with a future that is better than its past. Now, we're so proud to partner with CGIU in this effort, and in particular the partnership of President Clinton. He knows as well as anyone how important these issues are, but also how difficult they can be to solve in Washington. So thank you, President Clinton, not only for your commitment to improving the fiscal future of this country, but also to young people all around the world. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President Bill Clinton.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First, I want to congratulate the winning team from Stockton University, and I want to congratulate the spokesman for the funny joke about New Jersey. I want to thank Michael Peterson and his father, Peterson Foundation, Liz Maw, and Net Impact for supporting the Up to Us competition. And I want to explain to you how I view this from my perspective. I am the oldest of the baby boomers. I hate it, but I am. We are the generation born between 1946 and 1964. If you live to be 65 in America today and you're a woman, your life expectancy is about 84. If you're a man, it's just under 83. That's longer than it used to be. When Social Security was adopted and you could get retirement income at 65, the average age in America was 59. So what Michael said about the demographics of the baby boom and life expectancy are undoubtedly true. It is also true that the healthcare costs are a problem in large measure for two reasons. One is people tend to use more medical care as they get older, which is why under the Affordable Care Act, the only form of premium discrimination allowed is age-based differentials, because as people get older, they actually do use more health care. But in America, we cannot both have generous entitlements and by far the most expensive health care system in the world that still doesn't cover everybody. In 2010, when the Affordable Care Act passed, we were spending 17.8% of our GDP on health care. And the next most expensive big rich country was France at 11.8. The difference in current GDP is $1 trillion a year. 43% of healthcare costs in America today, in one form or another, are covered by government. Now, none of that you feel today because we're still in a period of very low inflation rates in the aggregate, particularly for government purchases, coming out of the great crash of 2008. But it's very important to point out that in the first decade after all of you leave universities, you can look forward to a time when, if the American economy continues to grow and there's not a total collapse in Europe and Asia continues to grow briskly, that more or less normal interest rates will return. When that happens, if we're spending too much more than we're taking in, interest rates will rise more, and the government will be crowding out private borrowers, which means you'll have to pay more for your student loans, car loans, home loans, credit card loans. The flip side is this: when I was president, we first set out to cut the debt in half in 4 years. Then we had, in the 6th, 7th, and 8th years, 3 surpluses, and I left a 4th one for the incoming administration. Debt as a percentage of GDP dropped precipitously, and the average person was saving $2,200 a year in interest costs. But the far more important thing from your point of view is this, is the point that was made well before me. If you spend all your money on the present and the past, you don't have enough for the future. You think of all the things, for example, I think it should concern you that South Korea has less expensive connections for broadband, and the download speeds average 4 times faster than us nationally. And our response is being led by Google, thank God, is going to do this in 45 cities, and they'll give us at least speeds that are globally competitive, but it'll still be more expensive. And then Knoxville, one of the towns in eastern Tennessee, I think it was Knoxville, the city did it itself. It's a terrible way to run a railroad if you need a national system of broadband download. And if you care about what happens on the Native American reservations or in Appalachia or up and down the Mississippi Delta, you should want that. So we are already under-investing in the future. And if you break this down, if you want to achieve a balanced budget, first of all, you have to have a certain rate of growth. Because when interest rates are lower than inflation, the more you contract, you'll lose more than you gain. But we're getting there. And therefore, it depends upon disciplined spending, adequate revenues, and a predictable, acceptable rate of growth. Then what you spend depends on really what you need for the future. There are some fixes we can make. For example, the United States for all of our extolling of private enterprise, actually spends less private money on infrastructure like roads and bridges and things than most European countries do, where it's usually a partnership. But if you want to have the maximum potential for every person who lives here and works here, we have to have a sustainable budget. Half the annual deficit disappeared because it was related to the crash. It's gone. And there's some controls over spending, but you haven't seen the return of normal interest rates. Many of you were pretty young when that crash occurred in 2008, and you can't imagine what it's like for anything to drive interest rates up, except predatory lenders. But the economy actually does it under certain circumstances that are more normal than the ones you've lived with. That's why you should care about this. Not because you don't want to invest in education, not because you don't want to invest in infrastructure, including a modernized electrical grid, but because you won't be able to unless we balance our spending priorities. The biggest problem by far is healthcare costs, and the good news is, in the aggregate, they're at a 50-year low in inflation. But typically, over the last 30 years, they've increased at 2 or 3 times the rate of inflation. What we do not yet know is whether we can, by rearranging the way we pay for healthcare, we can bring our own cost as a percentage of our national income closer and closer to that of our competitors. If we did, that's 80% of the problem. The Social Security problem, I think, is easier to solve, and you will deal with it. The retirement age now is 67. And one of the last bills that passed the Congress when President Shalala and I were still on the job in Washington was an almost unanimous decision in both houses of Congress to lift the earnings limit on people who also got Social Security, to encourage older people and empower them to continue to work and pay taxes and alleviate the problems that our baby boom retirement might pose. Good news is that's an 18-year problem, because the next generation is not as big as the baby boom generation. But the next generation, which includes most of you, is bigger, and you should be very glad until you become retirees, because the fact that you're bigger will give the American economy more capacity to grow. The only point I'm trying to make is, if you read everything about a budget debate that's in the press, wherever you get your news or you watch it, it tends to be overly politicized. And people say things and use facts to support tax cuts if they're on the right or if they're on the left and they want to target it to middle and lower income working families, or to support new spending programs. But in the end, it always works out the same way. Once you have normal growth and normal interest rates, you have to have a plan for spending, a plan for getting the revenues to pay for it, and you have to be honest about what the revenue growth is, so that if it's higher than you thought, thank goodness you got a little cushion. If it's not, you've got to cut back a little more. Your whole future depends upon our at least having an economic policy that doesn't deny self-evident realities. And no great country can remain great if it spends all its money on today and yesterday and too little on tomorrow. You have to invest in tomorrow. So, and actually this, from the point of view of this problem alone, this slowdown's been a nightmare for America and for the world. But on this problem, it gave us breathing space. But do not be fooled. Our economy is outperforming most other big rich countries now, and we will soon return to normal interest rates, when we will be paying the burden of past decisions. And so, since 1981, first, and we quadrupled the debt, and then I left office and we doubled it again. And we basically pretended there was no such thing as arithmetic. And it's good politics in the short run, but it's bad for your future. It's also bad to ignore the future. When you can invest by borrowing money at interest rates lower than inflation, that's a good thing to do. But you still have to deal with the underlying problems that are going to blow this up over the long run. That's what this team has done. That's why this project is important. And it isn't that hard. It's only difficult because it's become excessively politicized. So I ask you to try to think about this like you would any other challenge you're facing in your life, any other challenge you face in a classroom, any other negotiating through a thicket of desired outcomes that sometimes are mutually inconsistent. It is a great challenge, but every year when this contest is undertaken, I think it is up to you and you're up to it, and you should stay in that space. Thank you very much.